Oh, you know it. I have 3 little ones of my own and a fourth on the way. And in the earlier stages so I started my business, a good handful plus years before I had kids. And then my son came along and it shifted my perspective, but I hadn't fully adopted leadership yet. And for us within the Luminary Leadership Company, leadership is the bridge of everything. It's our access point to all the things we want most. But at that time, I was in a period of keep working so that you can have freedom, so that you can have the financial life that you want to have, or the ability to be present once your kids are here and you have a family and you want to show up as a mom. And I didn't fully grasp that one could come at the expense of the other if you're not thinking like a leader, if you're not viewing the growth process as a leader, if you're not developing your skills and your mindset and how you think and the lens through which you view the world as a leader. So in those earlier stages of business, when my son first came into the picture, I was in hustle and grind mode so that I could ultimately get out of hustle and grind mode forever. That was my mentality. Not
Funny how we do
realizing,
that.
yeah, we do it and we trick ourselves into thinking that, entrepreneurs kind of have bad math where it's like hard work plus time spent will equal freedom at some point, when in reality, that's just a bad equation. That's not true. There's so many other elements to that actual equation that come in and factor into the ultimate result. And that was true for me, where I was like, man, I'm doing all the things, but I don't see myself coming up out of this stage of just constantly being in stress and working and juggling. And I always felt split in two. And it's funny, all these years
Yeah.
later, that's the phrasing that a lot of my really elite high level business owners and entrepreneurs express. They say, I feel split in two. I feel like I'm juggling two worlds. Like, I'm so passionate about the work that I do, but I know I'm dropping the ball at home. And then when I'm in a season of family, it's always either or, it's not a both and. So I came to this conclusion when my second child was born. What if it's not about juggling both or finding balance between the two? What if it's an integration? What if I change my identity from an entrepreneur who's also trying to raise kids successfully doing both things to becoming what we call a founder family, a family that has chosen the path of entrepreneurship and is leveraging it as a tool and a gift in how we raise our kids into leadership and possibility for themselves? And silly me, I flash back on my life. I was raised by entrepreneurs. I was fully steeped in entrepreneurship all the way through. There were blurred lines. There were no lines between. My mom wasn't like, oh, these are my business hours. And I was sitting at the conference table as she was working with clients, and I was like doing my work and filing papers that probably didn't even need to be filed for her. So just bring me into the fray. But I learned so many of life's lessons through the experience of witnessing her living in integrity with her values through the vehicle of her business. And that's what we're trying to help entrepreneurs do, and find massive success in business, huge growth in business, while keeping their legacy at home, keeping the most important thing, and honoring their family in the process.
Oh my goodness. One, you just beautifully like knitted that together in a bow for us. So thank you. But thinking through like the founder family, first off, I don't know if you know the acronym of FIT is founders, innovators, and trailblazers.
I love
So
it.
good that you're speaking right to your ideal avatar right now. And I think about the element of family and how we're raising our kiddos as minipreneurs too. And they already have businesses. They're 7 and 9, and they're always watching everything that we're doing. And I think when especially in entrepreneurship or business, and we talk about leadership, we're immediately thinking about ourselves as the leader. And then I guess not a good word, not a biblical word, but our subordinate, or the people who work for us, or the people who are underneath us on an organizational chart, are the ones that we're leading. But how often, if we looked through the lens of parental leading, are we falling short or not really putting investment of time or energy into that space when we could be literally doing it consistently, even if you're doing it from a business lens too?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you hit the nail on the head. We're falling short in it when the answer is readily available to us. And I think sometimes that's the problem is it feels really far away, especially for a lot of entrepreneurs that are maybe service providers or in like a time for money type model where it's not as easy for them to they have to be working to be earning, right? A lot of
Right,
my clients, when they
right.
initially come in before they scale, maybe a chiropractor where if they're not treating patients, they're not bringing in income. And I can totally understand that. But I think the key piece is realizing that you don't have to get to this perfectly scaled business model to be able to show up in a really special way for your children. And what worked for me was, again, thinking back. So both my grandparents were entrepreneurs. Both my parents, my mom's still in business today with her own practice. Many of my aunts and uncles. So when I thought about how I was raised, it was, alongside them. It was they made their business the classroom, and that was and I wasn't
So
homeschooled
good.
or anything, although we do homeschool our kids. So I guess my point there is this works for anybody no matter what your lifestyle might be, but it's realizing that, man, there are so many leadership lessons for us, not just leading our teams, but leading our children, and so many lessons and so much wisdom for them to pick up on just by witnessing and being present to see how do we treat our people and take care of our team members? How do we talk to a client, even if the situation is a big challenge? How do we navigate a challenge when we face something that can be really hard? So, a lot of the things that we've done is we have our family board meetings. Now, our kids are young, 7, 5, 3, and
So
1
cute.
cooking currently, but we'll around the dining room table, and we'll make it fun and we'll make it age appropriate, but we'll bring some of the challenges that we face as entrepreneurs to the table, and we want their input. We want to know, what do you think? And it's not from a I think sometimes like kids get turned off to entrepreneurship because they hear the vent session at the end of the day because it is
Sure.
stressful, it is hard. But if you're intentional and you're thinking, okay, how can I lead them well as I also lead through this challenge well? And you bring those conversations to the table or whatever it might be for you. And we include them. We say, okay, so we navigated this really hard thing today, or we thought we were going to have this big income boost this week, and then something fell through. How would you face this challenge? And we want them to be problem solvers and thinking outside the box and to feel like they're a part of the family business. Like, even if they're too little to work directly in the business, they're a part of the team that makes this engine go.